Right, welcome back, everybody. Gosh, can you believe that it's been 5 months since South Africa went into a lockdown? I mean, this has been quite unprecedented, and I think many of us have been through the most. It's been a very, very difficult time for everybody, but we're slowly seeing South Africa opening. We're seeing different places coming back to life. I don't know about you, if you've noticed it, but at the same time, it's something that we have to do with caution. Now, one of the things is, of course, going back to school. We saw that happen this week, that the remainder of the grades that had been off school, going back to school for the very, very first time since March. So how has that been for you? Has it been okay? I mean, what was the experience like sending your kids back to school? So that's going to be quite interesting. And I must say, on a personal opinion, that'll be happening for me next week. My kids also haven't been back to school since March. They've been online and working, but next week is back to school in the flesh. So that's quite an exciting but daunting prospect, one would imagine. Now, we're talking about basic education, but higher education also having its issues along the way. I mean, universities have been vacant. Nobody has been onto campuses since that lockdown, as we say, 5 months ago. And that's the conversation that Sakina is going to be having right now with the Higher Education Minister Blade Nzimande as to the plans going forward. Sakina, let me hand it over to you.
Well, thank you, Leanne. Just a quick correction there, a slight one. There has been some activity and a slight phasing in of students going back. But Higher Education Minister Dr. Blade Nzimande has outlined the sector's response to COVID-19 during level 2 of the lockdown. This as the department aims to complete the academic year in February 2021. Now, more than 1,500 positive cases of the virus have been recorded at various campuses and 80 people have lost their lives. This as 66% of students go back to their facilities. Their institutions are working hard to implement return strategies in line with health and safety protocols. So to tell us more about this, we joined on the line now by Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande. Good to speak to you. Welcome to Morning Live, Dr. Nzimande.
Yes, good morning, Sakina, to you and your listeners and viewers at home. Thank you for inviting me.
Dr. Nzimande, you've been consulting with different stakeholders, and one has to ask, how challenging has that process been to actually try and come up with and agree on strategies to both prevent and, of course, save as much of the academic year as possible?
Sakina, thank you very much. Indeed, it's been a challenging period. As your own background introduction is saying, it's been a challenging period for all of South Africa and not least for us. And in any case, it's been said, even by the World Health Organization, that one of the most difficult areas in managing COVID-19, and usually a test of how well or how bad we're doing, is the education sector. Fortunately, right at the start of the lockdown, I constituted a ministerial task team, which is consisted of various stakeholders, the universities, the TVET colleges, the community colleges, the trade unions, as well as student representatives, so that at every step we were able to consult with them and also give them information as to what is happening. That is why I would say that so far, we've relatively done well, actually, in managing our own plans in line with the risk-adjusted strategy, not least because also we've been engaging with the stakeholders. As you point out yourself, from the 1st of June, after we moved from alert level 4 to 3, we actually then allowed a third of students to go back to universities. And we also allowed sections of students from our TVET colleges, priority being engineering students who are doing engineering programs at our TVET colleges and those that were actually going to write exams. And I must say, by the way, Sakina, in the TVET college sector, we've done very well. We've also had exams written already under these conditions by some of the engineering students who have finished exams, and we are preparing now for the next lot of the exams later this year. Universities, we have had 1/3 of students, and we prioritized final year students and other students who were doing postgraduate, and part of those also were doing final years who required laboratory facilities, and are doing other practicals that require them to be on campus, including those who are in the fields of health, because they were also very important in fighting the COVID-19. So now, with the president announcing the country moving from alert level 3 to alert level 2, that's what then yesterday we were announcing, Sakina, that we are now, for universities, going to take the next 1/3 of students, primarily your first-year students, who are also more vulnerable, plus all those students whose home circumstances, for one reason or the other, are not conducive to learning, including those who do not have access to connectivity where it is actually required. And we have agreed broadly with the stakeholders that that is the right way to go. And then we'll be left in the universities only with 1/3 of the students, who then will only return when the country moves to alert level 1.
Dr. Zimande, you say the TVET colleges have done well to actually get to a point where they could write exams. But yesterday, speaking to the portfolio committee about the laptops that had been promised to students who are dependent on NSFAS funding, the laptops that had not been delivered to them, how has that impacted on the learning and teaching at not just the TVET colleges, but specifically at TVET colleges and other institutions as well?
Sakina, let me just start just by clarifying this, that facts are very important for us as government and for myself as a minister, so that we are able to handle a situation based on facts. In our universities, we've been collecting reports on a fortnightly basis, right way back from June. 65% of the students actually have got a gadget. 65% of the students have got a gadget. The 30 to 35% that do not have are reliant on this tender that has actually been issued. Now, it's the TVET colleges that we concede we've never introduced this, and they are the ones. But the TVET colleges, the situation has been different either. They have not been that much dependent on having access to a gadget, because they've gone back. And also a number of their supplementary educational programs were actually on radio and others on websites. And we had given the students data, as we had promised, such that they could be able to access those websites and be able to get information. So the issue of gadgets, much as it is important and we are committed to it, is not often its negative impact as is often presented. And also, by the way, we report to the portfolio committee all the time, and the portfolio committee has all the right to come and call us to report, so that when they comment publicly, they comment on the basis of facts. So those are the facts. And let me also add now, Sakina, that indeed there is a challenge in the procurement, that the team, which is called the bid adjudication team from NSFAS, that has actually been doing the selection, has found none of the companies that have actually applied to actually offer these services to be relevant. So they've cancelled the tender. I've been briefed about that 3 days ago. Officially, they are going to start afresh. Unfortunately, it does delay, but we are not going to lie as government. On my side, I am absolutely wanting to have this thing done cleanly. It's a big tender, Sakina. It's about 2.5 billion rands. I would like this thing to be done very cleanly and neatly and no corruption. We would rather delay than have corruption in this kind of an acquisition. So I want to be honest. I'm very concerned that we are delaying, but the impact of this is not as bad as some people actually want to project it. I am determined that students will get these gadgets, because even for the future, that's where the world is going now. And increasingly, institutions, by the way, are doing what they call blended learning, which is a mix of going to class to have contact and also being able to access your studies and learning material through gadgets like laptops.
So, and as you say, Minister, perhaps not such a big issue for the TVET colleges where the students there were not as heavily reliant on laptops. But what about those NASFAS students who are at other universities where they are reliant? Because it is important that we take along everybody. And even if it's one student, 10 students, 100 students, it does become a big deal because they are then adversely prejudiced if they do not have the requisite materials.
Sakina, I agree with you entirely. As our hashtag slogan says, save lives and save the academic year, we are committed to that. We have also said we are committed to ensuring that no one is left behind. Now, also, let me clear this. Teaching and learning that has been happening at the universities have not only been reliant on online. We have got a very comprehensive, multimodal teaching and learning approach. What do we mean by that? It's a mixture of online. It's a mixture of physically delivering materials closer to where the students are, even in rural areas. That's what most of our institutions have been doing. Giving students, for instance, flash disks with information that are being delivered. We have also been making arrangements with some community, municipal facilities where students can be able, for instance, to access information. So it's been multimodal. Of course, the situation is uneven in our universities because some are better resourced than others. So we have not just been relying online. But having said that, we do realize that we have to provide these gadgets such that no student is unable to access online material where it's actually required. But also, all the university students, the picture that is there is that it's almost 100% they have accessed data. The small percentage that has not accessed data is because we've had problems of some of them changing their cell phone numbers or giving wrong cell phone numbers. But there we have actually also been doing very well. But it does not mean that we are not concerned about those students who do not have connectivity. That is why, Sakina, as we have been doing this on the side, by the way, I am being helped by one of my entities, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, who are doing a very important exercise for me. They are mapping the whole country to determine where connectivity is, wall to wall, the whole of South Africa. And they are coming up with information that is important, that in fact, more than 90% of South Africa has got, at the very least, 3G connectivity. Of course, some areas have got 4G. So we're becoming absolutely clear as to where the worst situation is and where connectivity is. That's what I've been doing also on the side, which, by the way, I'm very pleased to share that my two departments have been working together to try and tackle this problem. But my commitment stands to you at Morning Live and the South African public. Not a single student will be left out. That is why, Sakina, one of the things I was reporting yesterday were our plans about the end of the academic year, which at the moment, working together with the stakeholders, I had a meeting with the vice chancellors yesterday morning. No, day before, by the way, not yesterday, where we agreed that we have to manage the closing, the end of this academic year and the opening of the new one in a cooperative manner. That's why we've got dates. We've said the second 1/3 of university students are returning as from the 1st of September because they've got to prepare now. And we are planning for the academic year to end in February 2021. And we are planning for the new academic year to open between the 15th of March and the 15th of April in 2021. And this is also perfectly aligned with the Department of Basic Education, the announcements of matric results that are planned for the 23rd of February. So as things go, we have relatively been doing okay to manage the sector. And thanks to all who have actually been cooperating with us to make sure that we move together and we are able to save lives as we seek to save the academic year.
So, Minister, that's the other important issue that many parents and learners are concerned about. The university's academic year, then higher institutions of learning, ending in February 2021. So, many are asking, what are they going to do? What are they expected to do with regard to applications to these institutions for learners who are in matric this year?
No, it does not affect that at all, Sakina. In fact, we are urging students now to apply. That they should have started applying to be admitted in colleges and to be admitted in our universities next year. Already we opened, by the way, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme NSFAS applications on the 3rd of August. Already we've got about 89,500 students who have already applied. And we are encouraging them that they must apply now long before the closure, which is meant for the 30th of November. So it's not going to affect that. All what gets affected is that we have been unable to finish the 2020 academic year in 2020. But at least now we have a plan. We have a target that we are actually working towards. The key challenge is that as we return more students to universities, we must still maintain the health protocols because the virus is still with us. Physical distancing is important, regular washing of your hands or using the sanitizers, and maintaining all the other things that actually requires to be done.
And on level 3 of the lockdown, Minister, as you indicated earlier, 33% of students were actually allowed to return to campus. But there was a significant number of infections, as we indicated, 1,500 and unfortunately 80 deaths. So what were some of the challenges that the institution faced on level 3 of the lockdown? And which of these are they likely to carry into level 2? And also, what are some of the strategies that you've discussed with these institutions to try and prevent further infections and deaths?
Sakina, what we've done, we've developed 21 indicators for universities to determine whether they are ready or not. On the health side, on managing COVID-19, as well as on teaching and learning. In the interactions that we are having, as I say, over the last month or two, over the last 2 months or so, universities have been reporting fortnightly. And we've just had the latest report day before yesterday. As of 6th of August, we have already identified the state of the universities, that 14 of our 26 public universities were at low risk. In other words, things were going relatively okay in terms of managing COVID-19 as well as the multimodal learning and teaching method that I was identifying. 6 universities, we deemed them as medium risk and the other 6 as low risk. What we've done as a department, we are working very closely with the 12. In other words, the ones that are medium risk and high risk, because we are concerned that they actually do need to be ready. That is why we have said to them, and we have agreed together, start returning the second 1/3 of students from the 1st of September, so that you use this period, a week and a half that is left, to actually thoroughly prepare. And I must say also that we've been very lucky that some years back, the higher education sector established something called Higher Health, which is really helping us. That is why you will see in our statement daily at our universities, we are screening about 30,000 people, just during the part when we're having only 1/3 of the students. And that now we have hit more than way beyond 100,000, for instance, people and students and staff who are accessing the website of Higher Health, which has got a self-screening method so that people can be able to check themselves how risky they are. So that is the strategy that we've been following, working closely with the medium and high-risk institutions and just cooperating with those that seem to be doing relatively okay. The unfortunate part that we won't hide, Sakina, is that the low risk happen to be your former white universities largely. Though not exclusively, but largely. And then your high risk is your smaller former black institutions like your Mangosuthu University of Technology, your Vaal University of Technology, although we have been promised in meeting with the vice chancellors, that the situation is likely to have improved a lot in terms of readiness of our institutions.
Minister, we have literally 2 minutes, but I just want to put to you what some of the students themselves are actually saying. Just want to look at some of these comments coming through. There are complaints, and I've seen several of these, about UNISA and students being left in limbo, not knowing what to do, a lack of communication from that side. So I suppose, Minister, because I've seen several of these, it's probably just an appeal to you, if you can intervene in that situation and get the institution to actually liaise with the students effectively. And on the other hand, one of the other complaints that's coming through strongly is of NSFAS that seems to have cancelled some of the students, and they don't understand. They claim that they have not sufficiently been informed what the reason for that is, and they are struggling on that front. So if you may just respond to those, Minister.
Sakina, briefly with the time left, thank you very much. I want to say that if as it were, the circus now moves to institutions and even to campuses. By the way, we have much more campuses, Each university has got a few campuses mostly. So we want to urge the students to move closer to their institutions so that they get help. Where they get frustrated, please pass on those complaints to us. We will raise them with the universities, which is very important that we are actually able to do to work together. That's why we've been urging all the parties to say, let's work together, worker representatives, student representatives. Also, there must be health and safety committees in all the institutions where people are operating. Anyway, that is actually required by law. We are not saying everything is perfect, but we are urging all the parties to work together and not to throw stones at each other, because the unfortunate thing, Sakina, we have got very little time, even to finish the academic year in 2020. It will mean every minute, every hour of teaching and learning must be used.
I will certainly make sure that I forward those messages to you, Dr. Zimande, and try and facilitate that particular process. But thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. Dr. Blade Nzimande is the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, talking to us about the readiness of tertiary education institutions to receive more students in lockdown level 2, among other things. So if you have any complaints, I suggest you get in touch with me soonest, and I will then send those on to Minister Zimande. Let's take a break before we bring you your news at 7.